So the kettlebell deadlift, or kettlebell Romanian deadlift, starting off with kettlebell just in between your feet, and regarding foot position, we're going to be just outside of shoulder width apart with the toes slightly rotated out. Depending on your hip anatomy will determine how far you need to turn out. It's just so that you can try and shift back through the hip as much as possible whilst keeping the kettlebell very close to you. So from here, just going to play it through for a few repetitions so you can see the movement. So we're shifting back, big pull into the hamstring, and then driving through the hip to a nice and tall position. So I'm just going to stop that there. So we're looking for that neutral spine as much as possible through the ear, shoulder and the hip. And regarding the knee position, just a slight bit of knee flexion. So the majority of the movement will be coming through the hip, and so we're not squatting this, so it's not very knee dominant, it's very hip dominant. So if we were squatting, and this is what we don't want to happen, this upper leg would then come to an angle of maybe here, and so it would look like that, and your torso position would then change to more of an angle here. So we don't want that to happen. That's when we're squatting. We want this to be very hip dominant, so we want to hinge through the hip, and we want to try and shift back as much as possible, getting a big pull into the hamstring and into the glutes. So from here, also thinking about keeping the shoulder blades down and retracted. Try not to let the shoulders round forwards, and I've got my chin in a packed position all the way through, that doesn't move. And after each repetition, I'm keeping this kettlebell very close. It's always dropping down between the feet. Just going to play that through. Notice the kettlebell is staying in the same position. Try not to let it come out too far in front here. So as always, we want to be thinking about bracing in at the abs. So we're going to draw that rib cage down. So regarding breathing, so we have a breath in through the nose and then breathing out through the mouth as you draw down the rib cage, creating a brace. And then we have another sharp breath in through the nose, and then that's when you'd go through the repetition. So you'd come down holding your breath, coming up to the top, and this is where you'd be breathing out through the mouth. And then you'd go through the same procedure regarding breathing after each repetition. So coming down. So before you're going to lift the weight, feel big stretch into the glutes and into the hamstrings, and just thinking about driving the energy into the floor. So we get tension into the hips and then drive the energy into the floor via the heel. Keep the shoulder blades down, and then thinking about using your hips to do the work. This is where you drive back up to a nice and tall position. So just making sure that we've got the hips coming through. Try not to let a sway back posture happen by coming too far forward with the hips, and also don't allow the hips to remain into a flex position. Try and come through as tall as possible, squeezing your glutes at the top. And then when you're finished, just keep in your back position again, and then it can be squatted down, keeping a nice neutral spine.